Hello everyone, Fred here. In this installment of TPP Dynamite, I'm going to be talking about why Bucky Barnes should not have been made the MCU's new Captain America instead of Sam Wilson. First things first though, if you haven't already, let me encourage you to subscribe to my channel. I'm currently at just over 400 subscribers, and I'm really trying to make it to 500 by the end of this year. I post film, book, and TV series reviews. I do opinion pieces on entertainment, news, and affairs. I'm also an author of adult and young adult mystery novels. I just released a new short mystery called The Intruder. There's a link to it in my video description below, and I encourage you to check it out as well. With that in mind, and without further ado, I'm going to just jump right into it. So I was inspired to make this video after seeing the reaction to my own videos critical of Captain America Brave New World, and after watching videos by other YouTubers in which they criticize Disney Marvel's fumbling of the ball with Captain America Brave New World. And one common thread I noticed is a consensus that Sam Wilson's Falcon should not have been chosen by Steve Rogers to inherit the mantle of Captain America at the end of Avengers Endgame. And I agree with them all in that he shouldn't have been, because going that direction was always doomed to fail on some level, because readers of the comics have never taken to Sam Wilson as Captain America, because the MCU's Sam Wilson is even less impressive than the one in the comics, because the MCU's Sam Wilson has no leading man presence, because he isn't a super soldier like Steve Rogers, because his general sense of independent morality is not close to that of Steve Rogers, because his greatest achievement from his first appearance in Winter Soldier to his final appearance in Endgame was worshiping Steve Rogers. But what I've heard from most people who make those very valid arguments for why Sam Wilson should not have replaced Steve Rogers as the MCU's Captain America is that the mantle should have been passed to Bucky instead at the end of Avengers Endgame. And to me, that also would have been the wrong choice, getting into the other side of the same ditch. And when I say that, I'm not so much thinking about the precedent of Bucky's comic book run as Captain America, which I think did a little better in sales than Sam Wilson's did, but which I still think was relatively poor. I'm thinking more so about how making Bucky Captain America in the MCU and at the end of Endgame would have been the wrong choice specifically for the MCU. Because Bucky Barnes in the MCU, despite also never displaying one iota of leading man energy, always presented as even less so a superhero than did Sam Wilson. In Captain America the First Avenger, Bucky is shown as Steve Rogers' best friend and a brave soldier who put his life on the line to serve his country during World War II, but he has never presented as someone who wanted or even was willing to become a superhero or an icon of any sort. Captain America the Winter Soldier portrayed him, of course, as Hydra's brainwashed puppet for 99% of the movie. Captain America Civil War portrayed him as a fugitive and a still sort of brainwashed Hydra puppet who was just trying to live his life and forget the atrocities that he was forced to commit. Black Panther's post-credit scene portrayed him as just starting to get his agency back. Avengers Infinity War portrayed him as having gotten his agency back to a higher degree and being a very reluctant warrior in Wakanda's army when it battled to protect Vision and the Mind Stone. Avengers Endgame portrayed him again as one of about 1 billion Avengers allies who fights against Thanos' army, and later as Steve Rogers' best friend who could sort of tell that Steve had one last trick up his sleeve before he went to return Thor's hammer and the Infinity Stones to their places in time. Just none of that was any sort of proper setup for Bucky to inherit the mantle of Captain America at the end of Avengers Endgame. The man was never a superhero and never wanted to be. He'd only barely gotten his sanity back, and his entire character arc over the last 4 film appearances that he had, including Avengers Endgame, pretty much telegraphed that what he wanted was to be left in peace, to just forget all the evil he'd been made to do, and to be free from the possibility of being forced to do it again. Basically, and I'm just going to say this here, Bucky Barnes, as established in the MCU, had even less of a setup to inherit the Captain America mantle than did Sam Wilson. And again, that is not to say that Sam Wilson's setup in the MCU was anywhere close to good, because it wasn't, but it was still better than Bucky's. The Russo brothers themselves, the guys who directed Avengers Endgame, Avengers Infinity War, Captain America Civil War, and Captain America the Winter Soldier, admitted that they had Sam Wilson inherit the mantle because Bucky, as presented in the MCU until then, would cause more drama or destruction in the role. Because Sam Wilson in the MCU had been set up with a greater commitment to service, and because Steve Rogers felt that Bucky deserved more peacetime just to figure himself out before being thrust into that kind of responsibility. So you're probably wondering right now who I think should have inherited the mantle of Captain America at the end of Endgame, if not Bucky, and if not Sam. And my answer to that question is no one. And for that matter, I don't even think there needed to be any additional MCU Captain America films at all, because Steve Rogers is Captain America, not Bucky or Sam, because fans have never quite taken to anyone else who inherited and occupied the role of Captain America for any prolonged period in the comics, which is a good indicator that they'd likely respond similarly to that development in films. Because Steve Rogers' Captain America really did get a respectable trilogy of pretty strong MCU films. In fact, and I've said this before, the Captain America trilogy was arguably the MCU's most successful sub-franchise of solo superhero films. And Steve Rogers' Captain America arc over especially the last two Avengers films gave the character and the mantle a very strong exit. The Captain America franchise, as established in the MCU, does not need or deserve follow-up films. Now, Sam Wilson's Falcon and Bucky Barnes' Winter Soldier deserve follow-up films to spotlight how their characters continue in a world without Steve Rogers' Captain America, who was their best friend, and how they try to honor his legacy while building their own. But that doesn't require slapping the label of Captain America on content featuring Sam or Bucky. As Tony Stark himself said in Avengers Endgame, part of the journey is the end. There's nothing wrong with putting a definitive period behind the Captain America franchise and moving on to tell new stories that are just as strong, if not stronger, than the Captain America franchise. Use the absence of Captain America in film and the knowledge gained from everything that the fans didn't like about Sam Wilson in the comics as a blueprint for doing a series of Falcon films that present Falcon as an even stronger character than he was in the comics. Do the same with Bucky. Just because something is special doesn't mean that it must continue forever. Move on, Disney. Move on, Marvel. Anyway, I can hear myself rambling, so I'm just going to stop there. The bottom lines are these. Tossing the mantle of Captain America to Sam Wilson was a mistake in the MCU. Tossing the mantle of Captain America to Bucky Barnes would have been an even bigger mistake in the MCU. The Captain America mantle should have been retired with Steve Rogers. Sam Wilson and Bucky Barnes should have continued fighting the good fight under their own standards and on their own terms for their own reasons. The MCU would have been better for it. Class dismissed. At any rate, you know the drill. That's just my opinion. Time for you to share yours. Sound off in the comments below to tell me what you think. Do you agree with me? Do you disagree? Are your feelings more complex? Meanwhile, if you like this video and made it this far, don't forget to leave a like, click subscribe, ring that bell, and hey, follow me on social media as well. So long.